Over and under absorption of overheads. Now, it is very important for us to take key note of this because I mentioned that absorbing overheads is part of the planning theme, right? When we are planning for our costs, we want to ensure that we budget for the right amount of cost because, again, your cost is what is going to feed into your final profit. Okay, so if you estimate your cost to be very, very high, it means that your profit may be what? May be very low. Okay, so when you are planning your cost, we just want to ensure that we are planning for the right amount of what? Of cost. Okay, or the right amount of expenses we are going to incur in our production. Now, there could be situations where in planning for our overheads, we may either under plan. Okay, let me put it that way. Under plan for our overheads, or we may what? Over plan for our overheads. Right? Or we may what we call under absorb overheads or over absorb our overheads. Why is this very important? This is very important because once you over or under plan your overheads, it basically means that your projected profits that you wanted to arrive at may be either overestimated or underestimated. Okay? And a very important concept we learn in accounting, especially financial accounting, is the concept of prudence, being prudent. What does the prudence concept say? At best, we want to what? In planning, overestimate our costs, right? So that if our actual costs are lower than what we envisage it to be, then the better for us. However, if we underplan our costs and then the actual cost we incur, for example, is more than what we plan, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot. Okay, so over and under absorption uses this same idea. And so that ideal position for us will be to possibly, right, not underestimate our cost, but overestimate it a bit. Not too much, but a bit, so that once our costs are under what we plan it to be, then the better for us. Okay, all right. So our fixed production overhead, we are saying when it comes to the actual amount we spend for it, we will not be able to know it until the end of the period. So here we are trying to deal with what? The actual fixed overheads that we actually spent. You are not going to know it until the end of the period. At the planning phase, you can just estimate what your fixed production overheads will be. At the end of the year, it may be more, it may be less. So we are saying as a result, our fixed production overheads are costs which are ascertained at an estimated rate based on what? Budgeted levels of activity. So when we are planning for how much fixed overheads we are going to incur, okay, or how much overheads we are going to incur, we do that using the OER at the planning phase. But to actually know what we are going to spend, that will be at the end of the period or at the end of the year. So there's a possibility that the fixed overheads that we plan to spend or the overheads that we plan to spend may be different from what we would actually spend at the end of the year. And that will mean that there will be a mismatch between the planned fixed overheads or the planned overheads and the actual overheads. Now, in getting that planned level of overheads or planned level of costs that we are going to, we expect to spend, we use the OER that we've learned earlier, right? That is what we use in estimating it. And remember, when you look at the formula for the OER or that absorption rate, it is based on budgeted figures. And you know that for your budgeted figures, they do not represent your actual spendings or they do not represent your actual levels of output. We may plan to produce 10,000 goods, but within the year, we may produce more, we may produce less based on what? Other factors. So what that will mean is that the basis on which you calculated this rate to be able to what? Determine your fixed overheads may be wrong. I hope that is clear. It may be wrong or may be different from what actually happens. So there is always a problem when it comes to what? How much fixed overheads or how much overheads we plan to what incur versus how much we actually incur. All right. So we're saying the issue is that the estimated absorption rate for our production overhead is unlikely to match the what? The actual fixed overheads exactly. Okay. So there will be the need for us to what? Adjust for the differences. And in adjusting for the differences, we are saying if the estimate for our budgeted overheads and the budgeted level of activity are different from what? The actual results for the year, then it may lead to either an under absorption of fixed overheads or what? An over absorption of fixed overhead. For us, we want to be in this position. Okay, that is where the prudence concept will come into full force. So how do we calculate or how do we determine whether we overcharged our overheads or we undercharged our overhead? There are three very basic steps in helping us what get to that point. I'll just run through them, but with the right examples that we have, we are going to what better understand how this comes into play. So the first step in calculating whether you have overcharged your overheads or undercharged your overheads is to what? Calculate the OER. Now, when you calculate the OER, we are saying we are going to use this OER to compute what we call the overhead absorbed. Now, the way we calculate this overhead absorbed is by taking the OER and multiplying by the actual activity level. Please take note of this. I'll explain why we do this. Now, once you get this overhead absorbed, you compare, okay, this absorbed overhead to your actual overheads that you incurred at the end of the period. So now we've gotten to the end of the year, so we know how much we actually spend for our overheads. You compare this overhead absorbed with that actual overhead. And if the overheads you absorbed are greater than the actual overheads, then we are saying this leads to an overhead absorption, and it's a good thing for us. Okay, I'll explain why very soon. However, if the overhead absorbed are less than our actual overheads, then we are saying this results in an under absorption, and it is a bad thing for us. With examples we have, I'm going to explain why an over absorption of overheads is good or favorable, and why an under absorption of overhead is bad for us as a company. Okay. All right. So let's go into our question set and then solve the following examples. All right. Please, are there any questions for me regarding what we have done so far? Any questions? Any questions? All right. So we'll take it from the top, right? Learning how to calculate the OER and then proceeding to calculate what we call the over and under absorption of overheads. Okay. We have the basis of absorption. So that will be the first exercise. Okay. No, it's not this one. I think there's another one. Kindly hold on for me, I'm coming. All right, so we are back. Right, so we have this exercise here. Let's just run through how to calculate the right OER, which we use to absorb overheads into our products that we are producing. So the first question we have, you work as a management accountant for a manufacturing company, and you are about to give a seminar to middle managers on the topic overhead absorption. To show the various absorption bases, you have devised the following data. So you have the production overhead to be absorbed. So that's the total, right? Budgeted production overhead. You have direct labor hours worked. You have machine hours worked. So again, these are total figures, right? So in total, we are using 15,000 labor hours. For machine hours, we are what? 150,000. Total number of units produced, right? So this is the production units, that's 60,000. We have our total direct labor cost, which is 2.5 million. We have our total direct material cost, that is what? 3.2 million. All right. Required. We are being told towards stage 5 method of absorbing this 1.6 million Ghana cedis production overheads that is referred above into what? Our product cost. So how do we absorb all of this amount into what? The product? Then B, we are to calculate 5 overhead absorption rates, which we stated in A above, rounded in what? The nearest 2 decimal places. So first of all, is just a recall. Can you be able to recollect the basis of absorption that we mentioned? So this is a question to the class. We can unmute and speak. What are the bases of absorption? From the lecture note, what were the bases? We have 5 of them.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, so please, we can absorb through the total units produced.
Okay, so we can use the total production units.
So we can use the machine hours.
Okay, so we can use the machine hours approach.
The labor hours approach.
We can also use the labor hours approach. It says 5.
The percentage of direct labor cost.
The percentage of direct labor cost. Mhm.
And then the percentage of direct material cost.
The percentage of direct material cost. All right. B, based on what we have outlined above, let's calculate the OAR if the organization was using either of these 5 bases, right? So now, please, this exercise is very important. What we are doing here is very important, especially when it comes to your ABC, right? All of these things will feed into your ABC, which is one of the main topics under what? Under your MA syllabus. Okay. All right. So if the basis of absorption is the production unit, then the OAR will be the total budgeted overhead, right, over the total production unit. This is the formula. Okay. So that basically will be 1.6 million divided by our total production units, which is 60,000 units. That gives us an OER of what? Please also take note of the currency and then also the units. So what will be the OER?
Please do it 26.67 Ghana cedi per unit.
Okay, so 26.67 cedis per.
Please, this is in thousands.
You said this is in thousands.
So that's it.
That's it.
26.67. Yes.
26.67. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So this rate is the rate at which we are going to what? Charge this entire overhead into the product we are producing. Now remember, this will feature on our cost card. Okay, as the portion of our total overhead which we are attributing to the product we are producing. Please do remember that on your cost card you have your overheads, right? So this is the amount that will go on there. All right. Let's look at the second absorption basis. If the company is using machine hours as the basis of absorbing their overhead, then the specific OAR that will apply will be the total budgeted overhead over the total budgeted machine hours. Okay, the total. All right. From the question, our total budgeted overhead is 1,600,000, 1.6. The total machine hours from the question is what? 150,000. And so therefore, the OAR which we are going to use to absorb the overheads into our product cost will be how much?
10.67.
10.67 cedis.
No, as
Hours
per unit.
Where's the units coming from?
Okay, so it will be 10.67 machine hours.
Okay, so
So what about the?
10.67
All right, okay. So please, there's also CDs here, right? So it will be 10.67 cedis, okay, per machine hour. Okay, so I just put per hour over here. I hope that is clear. Is it clear? All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. C. For the C part, we are saying, what if the company has a policy to use labor hours, right, as their basis of absorption? Then what that means is that if you are computing an OAR for this company, then the OAR will be the total budgeted overhead over the total budgeted labor hours. Okay, so from the question, our total budgeted overhead is the 1.6 million over what's the total labor hours? I think that is 15,000. Okay, so 15,000 hours. So I think if I'm to add an extra zero, that will make our OAR 106.67 cedis per what? Per hour. I hope this is clear. All right. Then let's look at the last two, which are quite different from what we have. If the company is using the percentage of direct labor costs, the percentage, then the OAR is going to be the total budgeted overhead over the total direct labor cost. Okay, please, this is cost, so it means it's money, right? By 100. Okay. Our total budgeted overhead from the information we have above is 1.6 million, right? 1.6. Our total direct labor cost, money, right, is 2,500,000. Now you see, this is money, right? CD. So the two will cancel out. You get it? All right. So what would the percentage be? What's the percentage?
64%.
All right, 64%. So just to say that our total budgeted overhead accounts for 64% of what? Of our total direct labor cost. Okay? Of our total direct labor cost. All right, that's what we have here. All right. Then the final one, which is the percentage of direct material cost. Okay. All right. And that definitely will be our total budgeted overhead over our total direct material cost. All right, so that will be 1600 over 3.2. And that'll give us how much?
50%.
50%. Okay, this 50%. Okay. All right. So in the last diet, what the examiner did was he calculated these percentages for you, right? He did that for you. And then based on the percentages, you were supposed to use that to absorb the right amount of overheads into the product you were producing. So you didn't have to calculate this yourself, right? But this is how he arrived at those percentages of the direct labor cost and the percentage of the direct material cost. And then that is the basis on which the right amount of overheads would have been absorbed. So I think when we are doing ABC, I want us to solve that particular past question. Okay, we'll do that so that you see how it plays out. Okay, but aside that, in a typical question you may get, you may be told that, oh, the basis for absorbing the overheads, right, based on the traditional approach, is either by using the production units, by using the machine hours, or by using what? The labor hours. I hope that is clear. All right. So very, very important. Great. So now that we know how to calculate the OER, let's take it a step further. Okay, so we are building. Let's take it a step further. Question 2. RS Limited is a manufacturing company which is producing a product called Product P, which has the following cost card. So what they've done here is they've given us a simplified cost card, right? And that gives us the breakdown of what we need to incur to produce one Product P. So this is the cost card. This is how it looks like. Okay. So what do we have? We have direct labor. And then with the direct labor, you can see some figures. So let me try to explain what the figures are. So since this is the cost of producing just one Product P, what the direct labor cost we have here means is that for every Product P that we are producing, the workers will use 2 hours to produce one product. Now for the workers also, if they are working, we pay them at a rate, right? This is typically used in the Western world, right? Where someone will say, oh, they pay me $15 per hour. That thing that they see is the rate per hour, right? Here we don't typically use that. So for every hour that they are working, we are paying them what, $5. So if they are spending 2 hours to produce one product, it means the company's cost for just one product when it comes to the workers will be what? Will be $10. I hope that is well understood. All right. So once you have this, if the workers are producing 100,000 products, then you know what your total cost will be in that regard when it comes to what? Labor. Okay. So that's how we go about it. Secondly, on the cost card, we said you are going to see the material cost or the direct material cost. What does this mean? This means that if you are producing one Product P, I don't know what Product P could stand for. Maybe Product P is maybe a chair or something, right? So for that chair, we may use 1 kilogram of wood, okay? So 1 kg of wood will be required to produce what? That chair or that Product P. Now, what this means here is that for every kilo that we purchase, it will cost us what? 5 cedis. Okay? So it means that in procuring the materials to just produce only one chair or one Product P, it is costing the company what? $5. Okay, so this is just a breakdown of what goes into what? Determining the unit cost of producing a product. So when you break it down to the labor side, this is what goes into it. When you break it down into the material component, this is what goes into it. Okay, and then we also have we have some direct expenses here, right, which we have included. So at the end of the day, from our earlier studies on the classification of costs, okay, by their nature, these three will add up to give us what we call what? Our prime cost or our total direct cost. I hope this is well understood. All right, let's proceed to see what the question is asking us to do. It says that, where is that? Okay, let me bring it down. Okay. Now it says that RS Limited produces and sells 1,000 units of product P in a month. RS absorb overheads based on the number of units produced. So remember, on your cost card, you don't only have prime costs, you also have what? Overheads. And then what the question is telling is that when it comes to the overheads that we are going to add to the cost of the products we are producing, RS does that using what? Production units as the basis of absorption. And just now, you have learned how to what? Calculate that rate. Okay? All right. So based on past experience, RS Limited estimates its monthly overheads to be as follows. So in terms of the total overhead cost that it incurs, we are saying there is heating cost, okay? There is power cost, so electricity and all of that. There is also what? Maintenance cost. So when you add up all of these, it will give you what? 5,500. What is the requirement? What are we being asked to do? First of all, calculate the OAR and then calculate the total cost of what? Of 1 unit of product fee. Now, it is very important that when you get a question, you read the requirement first so that you know what you are doing. It helps you to look for the right piece of information required to answer the question. All right. So let's calculate the OER for this particular company, RS Limited. So since the production unit is the basis of absorption, I want someone to give us the formula for it. Anybody to attempt? Anybody? Yes.
Let's say.
All right.
Yes, so it will be the total overheads divided by the total units produced.
All right. The total budgeted overhead divided by the total production unit or the total units produced.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes.
And then in this case, the total budgeted overheads is 5,500.
Okay.
And then the total units produced is 1,000 units.
1,000 units. And so therefore, our OER will be, I believe,
will be
5.5 CDs
per
per
unit.
unit. Okay. All right. So if you are told to calculate the costs, the total costs, right? As the question puts it, the total cost of one product, okay? Just one of it, then we can show that on the cost card. All right, so we are going to have our direct materials. Okay, from the question, it said that is 1 kg at $5, and that will give us $5. So please, per unit. Okay, then we have direct labor. From the question, it says 2 hours at $5 per hour, and that gives us what? $10 per unit. Then we had direct expenses in there, and that is $1 per unit. Now we are left with our overheads. Okay, our overheads. And if you look at it critically, is this cedis or is dollars? Let me put the currency well. It's dollars. Okay. All right. If you look at the rate or the OER that we computed, this is $5.5 per unit. So it means that based on the absorption, the days of absorption that we used, the overhead that we are going to charge to product P will be what? Will be $5.5. I hope that is clear. It will be what? $5.5. All right. And so once we add that to the prime cost we have above, our total production cost for producing one product P will therefore be how much?
21.50.
21.50. Okay, so $21.50 per unit. For each product P piano, we are going to incur $21.50. I hope that is clear. So that is basically how you go about it. Okay, any question, please? Any question? Is this question clear? Because the next one we are going to do will be a bit trickier. Okay, is this one okay with everyone? Let me see your reaction if you get it. A thumbs up, a smiling emoji. Until sense I'll be crying. Give me a crying emoji so that I'll see. All right. Right, so that is fine. Let's look at example 3. And that one is a bit challenging. Let's read the questions carefully. So a company called Ballard Limited. Right. What are we being asked to do? It says we should calculate the OER for each cost center, right? So each cost center, we have been able to allocate or apportion some overheads to it. So let's first of all calculate the OER for each cost center, and then calculate what we call an overall blanket OER. So let's calculate another OER, which will cover what? The entire company's operations. Okay, all right. Then B, we are saying we should calculate the amount of overhead that we are going to what? Add up or charge or absorb into product P, which is B, which is one of the products of what? Of the company. And then we are supposed to do that based on what? The individual cost center OER, and then what? The blanket OER. It sounds a lot. Let's break all of them down one by one. All right. So Ballard Limited makes 3 products. Now, one thing you need to understand is that in your exam or in MA, it is either the company in question makes only one product, so they are a single product entity, or they make multiple products, so that makes them what? A multi-product entity. This company here is a multi-product entity. Now, for each of the 3 products that they make, we are saying it passes through what? 2 cost centers, or it passes through 2 stages before the product becomes what? The final product. So they have what we call the machining cost center or department, right? Remember the definition of a cost center. We are saying it is what? A department. It could be a function, right? And so on and so forth. So please, the definitions are coming into play. So we have the machining department, and then we have what? The assembly department. So I can liken this company to, let's say, a car manufacturer, right? So they make cars. So they have the side where they make the components, right? So that would be like the machining, and then they have where they assemble it, so the assembly. I hope that is clear. All right. So you have also here budgeted production in each cost center by each product. This is how the information has been presented. What does it mean? You know you have 3 products, A, B, and C. The first information you have here is the production units, right? What this means is we are producing 1,000 of product A, 2,000 of product B, and 500 of product C. All right. Then the next piece of information you have here are relating towards the 2 cost centers. So you ask yourself, what is this thing that they're giving me here? What are these things? This, you can see, is hour per unit. 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 Literally, this means that if I take product A, right? Let's focus on product A here. Product A passes through the 2 cost centers, which are machining and assembly. So you can see the information here, machining and assembly. I am producing 1,000 units of product A. When one of the units of product A gets into the machining department, it takes what? 1 hour to be able to what? Finish molding that component of what? Of product A. Then it moves into the assembly department, okay? And when it moves into the assembly department, it also requires that I use 1 hour to assemble that product A. This is what the information provided here means. All right. So with what I've done, can somebody also explain what we have here for product B? Explain using what I just said. What do you see? Anybody to try? Anybody to try? You are not wrong. Just attempt it. You are not wrong. Shall I be calling names? Yes, anyone? Please attempt it, okay? I just want to see whether you understand what the information we have here. So take it from product B. What does this mean? The 2,000, what does it mean? What does the 2 hours per unit here mean? What does the 0.5 hours per unit here mean? What does it mean? Ethel, would you give it a try?
Okay, so
All right.
under product B, we are producing 2,000 units.
Okay.
It takes 2 hours to produce it under the machining before it's transferred to the assembly department for them to also take 0.5 hours to produce the same units, I think.
Okay, to assemble the components that we have produced here, right? So once we assemble it, then we have the final product B. So that's why I was using the example of a car, right? So once the parts are molded in the machining department, it moves to the assembly department where all the parts are joined. Then you have your final car. Do you understand? So that is basically what this information is. So we will do that for what? All 2,000 cars or the model of what would that be, right? So that is just about that. Okay. Now, we've been given the overheads in the 2 cost centers, or the overheads that have been allocated or apportioned towards those cost centers. We have 100,000 for the machining and then 150,000 for the assembly, giving us a total overhead for the entire company to be what? 250,000. So based on this, calculate the OER for each cost center, and then what we call the overall or the blanket OER. So now, looking at the question we have here and the company we have, what do you think will be the appropriate, what do you call it, basis for absorption? Even though the question didn't say it, what do you think will be the appropriate basis for absorbing the overhead, based on your understanding of how the organization's processes look like? We have 5 of them. Which one do you think will make sense? Yes. Which one do you think will make sense for this company?
Say I'm trying.
Try.
The total machine hours.
Total machine hours. This is because this company, if you look at or understand the operations, they are machine intensive. Okay, please, there's an understanding to what we are doing. So even though the question didn't tell us what the basis of absorption should be, right, for the overheads in this company, the machine hours is the most suitable one. Okay, right. Okay, so to calculate the OER under both machining and assembly, under the machining department, their total overhead cost allocated to them is $100,000. Okay, so I'll not write the formula now, right? We just know it. What do you think will feature here in the denominator? And tell me whether we have that information readily available in the example, or this is something that we will have to compute ourselves. Please, quickly. First of all, what should be the denominator? What is it? The total budgeted overhead over what? Total machine hours. Do we have the total machine hours in the question? Certainly no, right? And so we need to find it. Okay. Now, since we are dealing with the cost centers, okay, this is what you need to understand. This. These are the 2 cost centers. We are being told that in the 2 cost centers, 3 products pass through them. Product A, product B, and product C. Now, we've also been given the time that it takes for one product to pass through what? Each of these cost centers. For machining, we are saying product A passes through it. And for each product A, we use what? 1 hour. Okay? Or 1 machine hour time. Product B also passes through the machining department. Remember, for each product of product B, it uses what? 2 hours. Okay? However, product C doesn't pass through what? The machining department, for whatever reason. And so therefore, based on the total amount of product A and product B we envisage to produce, we can be able to what? Find the total time that these products will spend on what? Or will spend in the machining department. So in this question, the total machine hours wasn't given to you. You will have to calculate it yourself. Okay, so for the total machine hours, we are going to have for product A, so this is product A, the 1,000 units by the 1 hour okay, per unit. Then for the product B, we are producing 2,000, okay, 2,000 products. Each product will use 2 hours, okay, 2 hours per unit. And so a total of 1,000 hours will be spent in the machining department for product A, and a total of what? 4,000 hours will be spent for product B in the machining department. You add the two, it gives us total machine hours of how much? 5,000. I hope that is clear. All right. And so based on that, our OER for machining alone will be how much?
$20 per hour.
$20 per hour. Okay. All right. So with the same idea, we can do that for machine assembly. So the total overhead cost is 150,000. Then for its total machine hours, we'll focus here. Okay. All right. So total machine hours. That will be, so A, product A, right? 1,000. Because all the 1,000 pass to assembly also. So 1,000 by 1, okay, 1 hour. Then for product B, all the 2,000 also pass through assembly. So 2,000 units, right? And then each unit is going to take 30 minutes. So that's 0.5. Then finally, product C also passes through assembly, right? So product B, it's just 500 units we are producing. 500 by 4. Okay, so here we will have 1,000 hours plus, so this one will also be, I believe, 1,000 hours. And this one will be what? 2,000 hours. So that gives us a total of 4,000 hours. Okay, so all three products will spend a total of what? 4,000 hours on the assembly department. All right, so 4,000. That gives us an OER of what?
$37.50 per hour.
$37.50 per hour. Okay, all right. So we have done the first part. Then it says, calculate an OER which will cover both cost centers. Okay, so here we have what we call the blanket OER. And typically that is the type of OER that will be what we'll be computing, right? If the company has multiple cost centers. So for the blanket OER, it's very simple. We are just going to accumulate what we have for the two individual cost centers. The total budgeted overhead from the question is 250,000, right? For the two. And then if we look at the total machine hours to cover the two cost centers, machining is 5,000. This one is 4,000. So a total of what? 9,000, right? 9,000 hours. So where did I get this from? This is 100,000 if you are revising, right? Plus 150,000. And then where did I get this from? This is, what is it? 5,000 hours, right? 5,000 hours plus what? 4,000 hours. Okay, all right. So what will be the blanket OER for this company?
$27.78 per hour.
All right, so $27.78 per hour. All right, so what we have basically done here is to calculate the basis on which we are going to what? Charge our overheads into what? The products that we are producing. Now, when it comes to the B part, the question, and this is something I want you to be very mindful of when you are writing an exam. The question can be very specific. Yes, the company is producing 3 products, but it said here that calculate the overhead that we are going to charge to product B. So the focus is on what? On product B. So if you don't read it well, and you go and do for product A, product B, and product C, the marker will just focus on what you have done for product B and mark it for you. You will not get any marks for product A and C, and you would have wasted time in the exam. So read the question carefully. All right. Now it is telling us that we should absorb the overhead, first of all, using the individual cost center OER. Then when we are done, we should absorb the overheads from the 2 departments, right, using the blanket OER. All right. So we want to calculate the total cost, right? So here, this will be the total production cost for one product B. Okay, total product cost for product B. So remember, when you take the cost of product B, definitely it will have some what? Direct materials, right? So there will definitely be some direct materials in there, right? There will be some direct labor costs, right? There will also be some direct expenses, right? If any, right? And so at the end of the day, we will have our prime cost. Now we are left with the overheads. Okay, so let's look at the overheads. We have 2 cost centers. Machining. There are some costs that have been attached or allocated to that what? Department. Okay, and then we have what? Assembly. Let's come back to the individual OERs. So tell me, this $20 under the machining department, and then there's 37.5. What do we do with it? What do we do with it? Is that the final cost that we are going to add to our product cost or not? Your guess is as good as mine. We are not just going to add the $20 per hour or the $37.5 per hour straight away into what? The final product cost. Why? Because look at it carefully. That $20 has a rate of what? Of an hour. So this is what? $20 per hour. But please, the unit cost we are looking for is the cost per unit. So look at the way it is measured. What you are looking for is some amount per unit. But what you calculated is some amount per hour. So the two are not liked terms. They are not liked. They are not like for like. Right? So what that will mean is that the $20 we have here is going to be a basis on which we are actually now going to charge our overheads into the product. And so you ask yourself, all right, so when it comes to product B, which is the product in question, in producing one product B, what is the time it takes for us to mold the components of one product B in there. And the question says, it takes what? 2 hours to be able to what? Do that for one product. So it therefore means that if this is the time we are spending on the machine for this product, and we are also being told that it is costing us $20 for each hour that the product takes, then that will finally give us what? The total cost we are going to incur for producing what? 1 unit of product B. I hope that is clear. So all I'm just trying to say is that be very careful with the OER that you calculate. In the very first question we saw, which was the RS, the basis of absorption was the production unit. And therefore, the OER we arrived at was already measured in per unit terms. So it was some cost per unit. And so when we're calculating the cost for product P, the OER, which was already in per unit terms, made it very easy for us to add it up to what? Our other direct costs. And so at the end of the day, we had $21.5 per what? Per unit in producing product P. However, in this question we are solving, the basis on which we are going to absorb the overhead is not in per unit terms. It's rather in what? Per hour terms, right? Per hour. I hope the distinction is very clear now. All right. So for the machining, what this means is that the $20 is the basis on which we are now going to what? Absorb our overhead. So machining, which is what we have here, focus on product P, it says you require 2 hours per unit for one. And it is going to cost you $20 per hour to work on what? On that machine. $20 per hour. Per hour. And so what will be the unit cost absorbed for the machining department? That will be what? 40. So this $40 is what? $40 per unit. $40 per unit. All right. We also have the assembly here. And when we come to the assembly, under product B, which is what we are focusing on, it tells us that each product B uses what? 5 hours. So 5 hours per unit. All right. The OER computed for the assembly department is what? 37.5. Okay, so that is $37.5 per hour. And based on this rate, we are now going to what? Find the total cost we are going to incur for product B when we work on it in the assembly department. And how much would that cost be? 5 by 37.5. How much is that? Yes.
So the hours is 0.5 hours.
Oh, 0.5. Where did I get the 5? This thing covered it. All right, so 0.5 hours. Okay, there you go. All right, 0.5. Okay.
So that will give us $18.75 per unit.
All right, so that is what? $18.75 per unit. Per unit. Okay, so by multiplying this by this, we now get what? The cost per unit. All right, and so when we add up everything, then that will now give us what? What the entire cost of what? Product B will be, which will include what? The prime cost and what? And then the overheads. That is all. So what is the total?
$58.75.
$58.75 per unit. Okay, per unit. And that's the question. All right. Now, we've done the first part. We are coming to do the same thing again. So we have above total product cost. Total product cost. For product what? Product B. However, this time, the basis on which we are going to absorb the overheads, the overhead cost, is by using what? The blanket overhead absorption rate, which we calculated. Okay, the blanket OER. All right. And so we are doing the same exercise again. So it means that, if they tell you what is the cost of producing one product B, you tell the person, I have some direct material costs that I will incur, right? Whatever it is. We don't have information on that here. I have some direct labor costs that I may incur, right? That will come here. I have some direct expenses, if any, right? That may come here. Then there are other production overheads. Okay. All right. But the question we have two departments. So we have machinery, and then we have what? We have assembly. Now the blanket OER we got was 27.78. So if we are charging the overhead cost to product B, we are saying we should use what? That's $27.78. That's what we are going to use. Okay. And then also for the machining, it's the same $27.78 per hour we are going to use. Right, that's the question. Blanket OER. All right. So focus again is on product B. Under the machining, we use for 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours to produce one product. And then the cost per hour is 27.78. And so what would the cost be for each unit that we produce? So please multiply this for me. When I'm done, I want you to try, we will try that for product A, okay? So product A. Just to gauge whether you understand what we are doing. So 2 by 27.78 gives us what?
$55.56.
55.56. All right, so this is $55.56 per unit. Okay? Per unit. All right. And then for assembly, the time taken is what? 0.5 hours per unit by 27.78. That gives us
$13.89 per unit.
$13.89 per unit. Please, I encourage you to bring your calculators to class. So I don't want to be only hearing one voice. I want to be hearing multiple voices. Okay? All right. So when we add up, what do we get? When we add it up, what do we get? I should punch my time myself. Don't worry.
69.45.
69.45.
69.45. All right. Okay, 69.45. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so that's basically it. This is the overhead portion that we are going to add up to our direct cost to be able to, at the end of the day, get the total cost of producing only one of what? Product B. That is all. So please listen to the question I'm going to ask you. We are going to calculate the cost of producing one product A, right? And when it comes to the overhead, we are going to absorb the overheads based on the individual cost center OAR. So cost for product A, right? We are going to use each cost center OER as the basis for what? Absorbing the overheads. All right. So let's say product A. Again, we have some direct material costs that we are going to incur. Right? We don't have information on that, so it could be anything. Right? We have some direct labor costs, which we are going to incur. We may also have some direct expenses, right, which are also going to incur. So we have our prime cost available. All right. So when it comes to the overheads, which is the most important thing here, we have machining, and then we have what? Assembly. All right. Who can help us to absorb our overheads for product A based on the OAR we calculated for each of the what? Of the cost centers. So for emphasis, the machining one, we had $20, I believe so, $20 per hour. And then for assembly, we had $37.5 per hour. Who can try? We are focusing on product A, so this is where you should focus on. Let me see. Christiana, give it a try. Your name came up top, so Christiana, try it. Christiana, if you're on the call and you can hear me, please try it, attempt it. Okay, she's not responsive. Aisha, attempt it for me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay.
So with the machinery for product A, we have 1 hour per unit. So it will be 1 hour times 20.
Okay.
That's 20.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be 20.
All right. So that will be $20. Mm-hmm.
$20. And with the assembly, we also have 1 hour per unit for product A. So it will be 1 hour at 37.5.
All right. So by 37.5. Okay.
$37.5.
All right. So that will give us $57.5. Okay. So this overhead cost plus the prime cost, if we had any figures to it, will give us what? How much we are going to incur to produce one product A. So what we are basically doing at the end of the day is that when we take each product, how much costs are we allocating? Okay, and the basis on which we allocate those overhead costs, for example, okay, are the OERs that we calculated. We can do the same exercise for product A by using the blanket OER that we computed, right? And so there, since the blanket OER is I believe 27.78, for machining, it will be 1 hour by the 27.78. And then for assembly, it will be the 1 hour per unit by what? The 27.7 units. Okay. So that is basically about that. All right. Any questions, please?